Imagine a time of darkness, where knowledge was a flickering flame, struggling against the winds of oppression. In this chaos, one man's wisdom shone like a beacon, Maimonides, or Rambam. A scholar, a healer, a philosopher, yet a figure surrounded by mystery. How did a single man shape the future of Jewish thought, medicine, and law? Was he a guardian of tradition or a hidden revolutionary? Watch till the end to uncover the truth, and don't forget to like and share this journey into history. In the heart of medieval Spain, in the city of Córdoba, a child was born who would change the course of Jewish history. His name was Moses ben Maimon, Rambam, but his journey was not one of ease or privilege. It was a story of survival, of exile, of rising against the odds. His childhood was shaped by the golden age of Jewish scholarship, a time when knowledge flourished and great thinkers debated the very nature of existence. But this era of learning was short-lived. The arrival of the Almohads, a radical Islamic dynasty, turned his world upside down. Jews were given a choice: convert, flee, or die. For Rambam and his family, there was only one option: escape. Forced to leave his home, the young scholar began a life of wandering, carrying with him the most valuable treasure of all, his knowledge. From Spain to Morocco, then to the Holy Land, and finally settling in Egypt, his journey was not just across lands, but across the vast landscapes of the human mind. But even in exile, he never stopped learning, never stopped questioning. He became a master of many worlds: Jewish law, philosophy, medicine. He didn't just study, he healed. He didn't just follow tradition, he redefined it. His books became lifelines for future generations, his wisdom a bridge between the ancient and the modern. But his rise was not without resistance. Some saw him as a savior of Jewish thought. Others saw him as a threat. Was his interpretation of Jewish law too radical? Was his embrace of philosophy dangerous? His ideas sparked debates that continue to this day. Yet, despite the controversy, his influence only grew stronger. His medical knowledge saved lives, his legal writings shaped Jewish law, and his philosophical works connected faith with reason. He became the personal physician to the Sultan of Egypt, respected by kings and scholars alike. But deep down, he remained what he always was: a seeker of truth. And so, the question remains: was Rambam a man of faith or a man of reason? Or was he both, balancing between the two in a way no one before him dared? To truly understand his legacy, we must go deeper. Stay with us till the end of this journey as we uncover the mind, the mystery, and the mastery of Maimonides. Exile. A word that means more than just leaving home. It is a wound that never fully heals, a pain that lingers in the heart. Rambam's exile was not just a journey across lands. It was a test of faith, of endurance, of survival. The Almohads had come with fire and the sword, forcing Jews to make an impossible choice. For the young Maimonides and his family, the only option was escape. But fleeing was not freedom. It was only the beginning of a life filled with struggle. They left behind the golden city of Córdoba, walking into the unknown, where safety was a distant dream. From Spain, they crossed into North Africa, seeking refuge in Fez. But even there, the shadows of persecution followed them. Jews lived in constant fear, forced into secrecy, whispering prayers behind closed doors. Rambam's heart ached, but his mind remained sharp. He knew that knowledge must survive, no matter the cost. In the quiet corners of his refuge, he wrote, studied, and prepared for a future that seemed uncertain. But Fez, too, became unsafe. Once again, the family packed their belongings, what little they had left, and set sail, reaching the Holy Land. But the land of ancestors was now barren, desolate, unable to provide them the stability they needed. And so, their journey continued, leading them to a place where destiny awaited: Egypt. Egypt was different. It was a land of power, of wealth, of opportunity. And yet, Rambam arrived not as a scholar, but as a man who had lost everything. He had no riches, no land, only the wisdom he carried in his mind. But wisdom, he believed, was the greatest treasure of all. He did not waste time. He found work as a physician, his knowledge of medicine quickly gaining recognition. His healing hands saved lives, and soon, whispers of his brilliance reached the highest circles. He became the personal physician of the Sultan, a man of great influence. But even as he served royalty, his true mission never changed. He remained devoted to his people, to his faith, to the preservation of Jewish knowledge. Even in safety, his heart carried the scars of exile. He knew that survival was not enough. Knowledge had to be passed on, protected, and expanded. And so, in Egypt, he wrote the Mishneh Torah, an unparalleled work of Jewish law. He wrote Guide for the Perplexed, a masterpiece that bridged philosophy and faith. He did not let exile define him. He let it shape him into something greater. Rambam's journey was never just about survival. It was about resilience, about carrying light through the darkest times. And even in the face of exile, he proved that the mind is the strongest weapon of all. But what price did he pay for his beliefs? What battles did he fight? Not with swords, but with words. The journey does not end here. Rambam was more than a scholar. He was a seeker, a challenger of norms, a bridge between the worlds of faith and reason. He dived into science, medicine, and philosophy, not as separate disciplines, but as threads of a greater truth. His mind did not fear questions. It welcomed them. But not everyone shared his vision. The Jewish world was divided. Some saw him as a guiding light, a man who could reconcile religious tradition with the intellectual advancements of the time. Others feared him. They accused him of endangering faith, of bringing foreign ideas into the sacred. His greatest work, Guide for the Perplexed, was not merely a book, it was a revolution. In it, he dared to ask, can faith and reason coexist? Can the divine be understood through logic? He wrote not just for the scholars, but for those lost in the sea of doubt. His words sought to bring clarity, but instead they ignited a storm. Some Jewish communities banned his works. Others burned them. To some, he was a philosopher king. To others, a dangerous thinker. But through all the opposition, Rambam never stopped. He believed in the power of knowledge, in the strength of a mind unafraid to seek the truth. Was he a defender of faith or a hidden rebel? A guardian of tradition or a visionary of the future? The answer remains buried in history, waiting to be discovered. A man's true influence is not measured in his lifetime, but in the echoes he leaves behind. Rambam's words, his ideas, his wisdom, none of it faded with his passing. Instead, they grew stronger, crossing boundaries of religion, time, and geography. His Mishneh Torah became the foundation of Jewish law, studied in every generation, a guide not just for scholars, but for the common people. His works were debated, discussed, and revered. But Rambam's influence did not stop at Judaism. His medical texts became standard references in both the Islamic and Christian worlds. His philosophy, blending Aristotelian logic with religious belief, shaped scholars of the Renaissance. Even today, universities around the world study his approach to ethics, medicine, and law. Yet the question lingers. Was he simply a scholar, or was he something more? A revolutionary thinker? A bridge between tradition and modernity? A man who dared to challenge, to question, to seek truth where others feared to look. His legacy is not just in books, but in the minds he continues to inspire. Rambam lived in a time of uncertainty, but his message remains timeless. In an age where faith and reason often seem at odds, his teachings remind us that knowledge is not the enemy of belief, but its greatest ally. And so, centuries later, his words still ask us the same question. Will we seek truth, even when it challenges everything we know? History remembers great figures, but it often forgets the struggles that made them who they were. Rambam was not born a legend. He became one through hardship, sacrifice, and the courage to think differently. But his story does not end with his death. His ideas lived on, shaping the minds of scholars, influencing medicine, philosophy, and religious thought for generations to come. His teachings remain a guiding force, proving that knowledge is immortal. But history is never simple. Was Rambam truly accepted by his people? Or was he a lone voice, fighting against the very traditions he sought to protect? His guide for the perplexed challenged the boundaries between faith and reason, sparking debates that continue to this day. Some saw him as a visionary, a man ahead of his time. Others feared his words, believing they could lead Jews astray. Even after his passing, his books were banned, his ideas rejected by some and embraced by others. Yet, despite opposition, he stood firm. He never wavered in his pursuit of knowledge, never compromised his belief that wisdom should be accessible to all. His Mishneh Torah simplified Jewish law, making it clear and systematic for every Jew, not just the elite scholars. He bridged the gap between tradition and modernity, ensuring that faith was not blind but enlightened. So we ask you, who was Maimonides? A revolutionary thinker, a bridge between worlds, or a silent rebel who reshaped Judaism from within? His words have survived centuries, but their meaning depends on the reader. Subscribe to our channel for more untold stories of history. Like this video if you believe knowledge should never be silenced. And most importantly, watch till the end. Because history is never just about the past. It is about the questions we still seek to answer today.